moving back and forth.
What?
This. 1 minute's like way back out here, and the next minute's up here.
Oh. I don't know.
4 was up here. It was all over.
another evening of fun.
Oh, yeah.
You hurt your arm, or?
No, it's, I don't like wearing sunscreen on the bike. You put sunscreen on and then you go riding and dirt sticks to it and
Yeah.
gross.
It gets all over your, for me, it gets on my hands and then on my face.
Yeah. Just easier to wear these and I don't have to keep reapplying.
I gotta know how some of those guys ride those bikes on the freeway in shorts.
Yeah.
I mean, don't little rocks and stuff.
Yeah, every once in a while you get caught by a rock, and even with pants on, you
Isn't
still
it?
feel it.
I wish I could have done the tour.
I had a one of those plunges
Okay.
snap
So
me
nice
one
to
time,
see all that.
and even through my
Isn't it?
pants.
Excitement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really is.
Very nice words too.
It's
You're
really.
good.
I mean, they just tremendous amount of work they've done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, 10 months construction schedule is pretty crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, safe, ready for kids,
Yeah.
fully staffed. Well,
Crazy.
probably staffed as they could be at the first day, but no, it's great looking. And you can just feel the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
She has a great reputation.
Yeah, she is.
does.
She's fantastic. Homegrown and everything. Yeah. How you doing, Julio?
You know,
Did I take?
these pins here, my plate just fell off.
Yeah, mine did too.
Your plate did?
Yeah, the front, so now it's just a gold shield.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't take care of nothing. You can't have nothing nice.
Guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, since yours is still intact, that you got the upper grade, and I got the lower grade.
You got tier 1.
Yeah.
No, he just has one for every coat.
I do. Yeah, I don't take it off. Just probably that.
Yeah, I bet you that's what it is.
This is my free sample from the ribbon cutting.
Oh, well, that was smart, picking that up. I was trying to remember to pick up some cookies on the way out, and I
No,
forgot.
this is from the Walmart.
Oh, that's right there. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping it pays off. We're not off on you.
Getting up at 7:30 in the morning, right?
4:30. Who's counting?
Yeah. Okay. 2 minutes.
I took care of my homework, Nicole.
Thank you. A+.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Nicole, for getting that over there. Appreciate that. On short notice. I talked to her about it to the last minute.
She's good at that stuff. Piece of cake.
Close. I forget when Ray's getting back from Hawaii. I don't know if he's here tonight. I haven't heard from him.
Just FYI to council, just, I haven't had dinner, so if I get a little cranky later on, you'll know why. Yeah.
I hope you do.
If I get hangry.
I will open the city council meeting for Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. We will be going to closed session at 5 p.m., so I open this meeting at 5. Could I have a call to order, please?
Sure. Councilmember Santos? Councilmember White?
Here.
Councilmember Lara?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Here.
Mayor Carroll?
Here. Could the city attorney please read the items that are going to be covered in closed session?
Yes, the council is meeting in closed session on item 2, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Elijah Talley et al. Versus City of Beaumont, case number RIC 1810937. And also on item 3, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, city designated representative, city manager Todd Parton, or his designee, regarding the Police Officers Association. Also in attendance on that item in closed session will be Lena Wade, appearing by telephone, and Carrie Mendoza.
Thank you. We have no public comments, correct?
Correct.
All right, with that, I will adjourn to closed session at 5:01 PM.
Pretty good. Halfway.
Yes, I'm so.
Starting school, how's school? Good. Yeah, pretty good. We're hitting it fast. All right. Cropping. So far, so good, knock on wood. All right. Fantastic.
Need my dinner. Maybe
So is it cooling down in the desert yet?
Not really. I went up to, I took my family up to Forest Falls. Have you
Okay.
been there?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I had no idea that place existed.
Oh, really?
It was incredible. Hiking up there at that waterfall. I was surprised it was flowing.
It's been years since I've been there, but
Oh, it's beautiful. There's a little Mexican restaurant up there.
could you see the remnants of the fire?
Yeah. Smoke. Yeah, it was beautiful.
closed session? Yeah, they're back. I guess they got nothing to talk about. Oh, they closed. Did you talk about them four daughters? Hey, man.
Matter.
Yeah. We're just gonna pretend you don't exist, Libby. And when this SEC goes, we're gonna say, look at the teacher.
Call the stormtroopers.
Oh, here come in. Hey, buddy, I gotta pick up a copy of that, police report for the counterfeit 100. Where do I go? Is it in here or is it back there?
No, just to the front.
To go back to your place, go back to the police station, or
Yeah.
is it up here in this office?
No, just over at the police department.
Okay.
The department of the lobby.
Okay,
Yeah.
just ask for it. Okay,
Yep.
there, okay. Get any more since those two? Well, I would hope you'd be one to know, huh?
On a fake 100?
Fake hundreds floating around. It was a good counterfeit. It was a good one. Like I didn't, he didn't catch it and I didn't catch it. I kept trying to cross it.
Did they take the pen? Did they take the marker?
He didn't use it, have a machine. He didn't use it. Yeah, look here, it's Judy Bingham's
I know.
money.
I
You
know
saw
we need
that
the boss
one.
upset.
Let's not talk about the machine. He has a machine.
Don't you buy that machine
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
light? Yeah. I
So-
like both, man. I mean, with those hundreds, you gotta hit them with the marker and
Yeah,
the light.
yeah, so he didn't know how to use the light, and he was from the wholesale, and it's bad, but it was a good one, like, I looked at it, I couldn't figure, it looked all right for the naked eye, it was a good one. I've seen
So they
bad,
probably washed a 5 or 10. So it's the right cloth.
Oh, the
linen,
feel.
with the linen light.
Yeah.
And then they print it on the same material. So then you hold it up to the light, and when the band will say 100, it'll say like either 5 or 10. There's a few tests, and we can help your employees with that too.
the basements hold it like that, I didn't know, I didn't, and they just grabbed it, and they sealed it up, and I was like, whoa, cause I wanted like a picture of it or something, I didn't get nothing, they
Let me
just.
email you, let me see if we still have it. I think they, when our community policing guys put together a package.
Yeah.
You think you still have that? It's pretty old.
Not right now, yeah, I ate a little.
Oh, I know, that's, I can't even know how they take them. At least the new ones have this big bar across it. So that's a big,
The old scam is like to hit people from themselves. So you have to 20s and you buy something for $1. and
So I don't know for sure.
They don't know, or the SWAT meet, right?
Yeah.
They just prey on these people that are.
I brought my sweater tonight, like.
I'm sorry.
I was just so surprised.
And they've got this fan going, but not that one.
I think it's hotter up here.
It might be.
I really do.
See, this is
I think it's also,
a lot of hot air, is that what you're saying?
yeah, I didn't say that.
You're interested.
Well, see, but this is right overhead, so that
Yeah,
makes
it's
it
right. Really should have shown her while he was there. She does have a machine though. She has like the big machine. And then they know how to use it now. We trained them, so, and it has it for hundreds, 5s, 20s, 50s. So, yeah, they know how to look for it now. So,
It's so funny. And the guy turned around to show his butt. I was trying to get, I was going.
but this machine, it has like a little, it's like the ultraviolet, and yeah, you look in there, and that's what we
The
on.
part we wouldn't need because of ultraviolet is still gonna pick up the linen and the cloth in the fabrics we put in the paper on the money. So that's why it's not too much money. out of it.
No.
No. Yeah, yeah.
To go home.
So then, when you walk through on money, you get so much more.
Fire that was sent by Idlewild, he sent me that.
Wouldn't work, right?
There's Katie, look at it, he's got new sandals. He said Katie doesn't like
Geez,
these
we get
sandals.
so many too.
This is what my pant looked like before he watered it. And I was like, oh my God. He said, I'm watering it, I'm watering it.
They know who to hit.
They know who it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why
Well,
they
these
do
stupid-
make them, but a lot of people in this hundred gardeners,
Sure.
and just people pay cash and they pay the hundreds, and I don't know why, because I think it's crazy. But they do, and we get so many, so it's something
It
that
says
people
board,
know. At least,
12
something like that. Yeah, and you wouldn't think of a place like that, but people, like 2 times, it's just weird. It's
But
nothing.
you found them. You didn't take them.
Not fake ones, real ones. Yeah, they take them. You know, the new ones, you can tell they're real. Oh, no, you're like freaking me out. I'm not freaking you out. No. You know, but, you know, getting them. Like, that kid took that 100 fake, he got another one. And I was like, wow, I can't believe you took it, first of all, after getting a fake one. But he said he looked under, he figured out the light, and he could see it. There's a bar in there, there's a ultraviolet, and then it has a little microscope.
Fifth time this morning, and then I reviewed the pertinent sections again today.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just come to the front lobby.
Okay, I will, I'll figure it out. I'll try to get tomorrow. Thanks.
A lot of, we went to this bakery after her recital. It was called Rocco's. Had cannoli.
Of course.
My son took that out. Here she is. This is a girl she dances with in Bakersfield. And there's one of the kids who were there working with them all week.
So she's it.
That's Alyssa. Yeah.
Good, how you doing?
That's her. The Statue of Liberty.
Oh my
Isn't that a
gosh,
great
look at her.
picture?
Who took that?
Either my son or my daughter-in-law. I'm not sure.
I don't have time.
Oh, this is
We're
my
public
brother.
meeting, so we can get out of here. No, I'd rather go, I have to. Oh, yeah?
There he is, yeah. I took that, so let's
In a day or two, or
I mean, I don't want you to waste your time. It takes time to do that. Bus drivers. Well, that's okay, they know you're on it. When we had they would call they just call, you know, that was in the good old days, you know.
That's the same picture. To this ice cream place, that's all of us again.
That's funny.
Alyssa and Austin, they look bored.
That's funny, the way you took it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There she is in front of Rockefeller's radio city music hall. I said,
the dirty employees.
Here they are, somebody took that picture. That's from the Statue of Liberty and there they are in front of the embassy.
Probably about 9.
That was the next night. They went to the game the next night, but we went back here. That's her friend from Bakersfield. Look at the two of them.
Wow.
At least 4 hours.
She has to bend her knee to do that. But
I see. She's like the splits.
yeah, and that's them again on stage. We sat in the audience back here, so this was from the stage. To Austin. Some guy, they went to Dave and Buster's, and they were eating, and I guess they played video games there, I don't know. And some guy gave Austin this stuffed alligator, he carried it all the way home on the plane. There's Christian and Austin. I'm not sure where they're at.
need to turn that air on.
It's not
The only one that made things run around here.
Lloyd, did you go?
No. I would have gone to couples of years.
I like being here, so too bad.
He says it's on. So maybe we'll turn it earlier next time.
Thank you, Heather. 2 minutes.
Okay.
You may.
Thank you. Sorry.
Not a
I
problem.
got a smudge. It's
As long as you stop
driving
blowing
me
your nose with
crazy.
it, I'm good to go.
It's driving me nuts.
I know, don't they?
The shirt couldn't get rid of it, so maybe this one. Oh, that's better. Thank you.
Yeah, we bought some wax. You put it on once a week. And
Oh, yeah?
I'll find some for you. I like it. It works well.
Okay, how we doing? We need coal. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the session afterwards.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, if it's 6. Beaumont City Council meeting of Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. We are coming out of closed session at 6 p.m. And please make note that Councilmember Santos was in closed session and he showed up at approximately 5:05. Could I have a report out of closed session, please?
Yes, the council met in closed session. Item number 2, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Elijah Talley et al. Versus City of Beaumont, case number RIC 1810937. And there was reportable action taken on that item. There was a first that was made by Councilmember White and a second that was made by Vice Mayor Martinez to defend the action that's been filed, and the vote was as follows. Councilmember White, yes to defend. Mayor Carroll, yes to defend. Vice Mayor Martinez, yes to defend. Councilmember Laura, yes to defend. And Councilmember Santos, yes to defend. Item number 3 was conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, city designated representative, city manager Todd Parton or his designee regarding the Police Officers Association. Also in attendance were Carrie Mendoza and Attorney Lena Wade attending by phone. And the council did not take final action in closed session, but instead, it's my understanding, will be taking final action on the MOU between the City of Beaumont and the Police Officers Association at this time in open session. So you have that MOU before you.
All right, thank you. Regarding item number 3, do I have a motion from council, or is there a need for any more discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the memorandum between the City of Beaumont and the Police Officers Association.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Santos,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll.
Yes. Thank you. With that, I will call to order the regular session at 6:03. Could I have a roll call, please, for that?
Councilmember Santos,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Lara,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Here.
Mayor Carroll.
Here. Do I have any conflicts of interest from any council members? If not, we'll go to the pledge, please. City Manager, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If there are no conflicts of interest to be declared, then I will move to public comment. We're going to make some adjustments to the order of things that are coming up. We're going to move up one item, but let's open with public comment. Any one person may address the City Council on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the City Clerk. There is a 3-minute time limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the council from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. And I will open public comment at 6:04. Do we have any requests to speak?
Yes. First speaker is Judy Bingham.
Judy Bingham, 115 Minnesota. I ask this council, have your actions over the last 2 weeks done anything to restore the public's trust? You all paid lip service to the citizens after the raids, but your actions certainly show you don't take that seriously. You are also anxious to move forward. How can anyone move forward when you continue the same scams as the last council? You want to move forward by plugging in numbers in the financial statements? Whose big idea was that? Mike Bush, Urban Futures, Mr. Pinkney, Vanessa Burke, Mr. Poon, Alana Taylor, or was it Todd Parton? Or Mr. McDougal that you brought in to lie about the asset list. By the way, we still don't have it. When is this council going to take responsibility for what happened on August the 6th and 7th? Whose idea was it to call in 4 of Beaumont's police force to keep the only 2 citizens in attendance from questioning the Audit and Finance Committee? Was it Nancy Carroll or Steve Cooley? Who cooked that up? That really wasn't an original ploy, you know. It wasn't that long ago that Beaumont politicians and staff took great delight in sending in the corrupt police to harass and intimidate me. It will never work because all it means is that you have joined in with the crooks that somehow insist on continuing the bond scams on Beaumont citizens. I will never understand why it was done. Your character is reprehensible. Are you that stupid or that you followed yet another set of greedy profiteers?
Next speaker is Libby Yermovic.
I'm in a better mood.
Good day for people that don't like white-collar crime. Manafort, bank fraud, fraudulent financial statements, Cohen pleads guilty, and then Duncan Hunter gets busted. That's 3 for 3 for me. Forging government documents and bank fraud are serious crimes. Manafort didn't forge government documents, he just did the bank fraud thing, forged his financial statements to try to defraud banking institutions. What you guys did was an insanity. At the August 7th, 2018 Beaumont City Council meeting, Finance Director Milana Taylor introduced Donald McDougall as an expert in his field. At the 22-hour, 22-minute mark, Todd Parton states that he's the one that hired McDougall. McDougall was a fraud. He was a light bulb salesman that used to work for O'Connor Securities. He doesn't teach GASB. I did public records requests to some of the cities he claimed he taught. Nobody's ever heard of him. Plus, you have to be an accountant to teach accounting. How would you think a light bulb salesman could teach GASB? I did a public records request. Parton said he hired him. Obviously, Nancy Carroll knew about it. But it came back, there was no record. No record of any email communication, no contract, no invoice, nothing. What did you guys approve? You don't even know, right? You just know you did something fraudulent. And you did. The answer to your question is 11. 11 complaints I sent out. 1 to the DA, but the rest were state and feds. Well, of course, 1 to Standards and Poor's. 11. It's a really big deal to fake being an accountant. You have to have federal registration to be involved in people's financial statements when they are issuers of bonds.
Other speakers?
Thank you. With that, I will close public comment at 6:09 p.m. We'll move on to the consent calendar. I do not know if there are any other requests from the consent calendar to be pulled. I will ask for items 7 and 8. And do I have any other council members that need any other items pulled?
I have a questions on item number 7, if I could ask that. Okay.
Okay.
So Mayor, if it's okay with council, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10.
Second.
We did not have any requests to speak on those items,
Sorry.
right?
No, we didn't.
That's all right, I'm just making sure. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Thank you. Item 7, adoption of engineering and traffic survey for the establishment of posted speed limits within the city of Beaumont. And Councilmember Santos, I know you do have some questions. Some of the other council members may. So, hi, thank you.
Hello, good evening.
So we will go ahead and take your report, and then, do we have any public comments on item 7?
We do not.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Mayor, council member, staff. In order for the city police department to conduct radar or LiDAR speed enforcement on public roadway, the city requires by California Vehicle Code to establish posted speed limits based on current engineering and traffic surveys. CBC Code 40802, in order for posted speed limits to be enforceable with radar or LiDAR, speed survey needs to be updated every 7 years. Posted speed limits that do not have an adopted speed survey are not enforceable by the police department using radar or LiDAR in traffic court. The current speed survey is due to expire in December of 2018. The city conducted a citywide traffic survey in 2017 by Minigar Associates. The findings of the survey submitted on February 27th, 2018 reveal that 34 of the 48 surveyed streets segments are recommended to remain the same. 3 segments are recommended for a decrease in the existing posted speed limit, and 10 segments are recommended for an increase in the existing posted speed limit, and 1 segment is recommended for the establishment of a new posted speed limit. There will be no fiscal impact for adopting the engineering or traffic survey. However, there could be a fiscal impact in the future if and when 14 speed limit signs are changed. Recommendations to approve and adopt the engineering and traffic survey for establishment of the posted speed limits in the city of Beaumont. And I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I know we have some other council questions, but I'll go ahead and just make my comment, and I'll open it up to them. The section that we call Old Town, which goes between Beaumont Avenue on 6th Street down to the access onto the highway, there was a recommendation in the traffic study to increase that speed limit by 5 miles per hour.
Yes.
And the community has spoken a lot about controlling the speed limit through there, that the businesses want it to be a more pedestrian-friendly downtown area. And so I'd like to support not changing that up, leaving it exactly as it is, because I think it will send the wrong message if we bump it up. When I read through the documentation, and it said that there's sort of an understanding that people go a bit faster than the posted speed limit. I just feel like we're sending the wrong message to the downtown area, where people are really trying to get a foothold, no pun intended, on being able to get a pedestrian-friendly downtown area. So I think it sends a message that I would like not to send. So that's my concern about that one particular one, and I had no concerns or questions about any of the other ones. So with that, I will leave my comment there and see whatever else the council members may have to say about the same thing. They may be in disagreement with me. So, do I have other?
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Councilmember Santos.
The same talking on that on the 6th Street, exit eastbound to 6th Street, and we increased the speed limit on that to 35. And the way I see it, I mean, just like Mayor Carol saying, the neighbors in the area seeing increase of traffic and speed, people in there, I mean, cars in there. And for past few weeks, I really appreciate seeing the police officers over there giving some tickets and everything, especially on a Friday. My concern is exiting on eastbound up to Beaumont Avenue. And if we could retain the 30 speed limit on there, that would be great. I mean, that would be good. And both ways, east and westbound on that, on Beaumont to the freeway. And secondly, it's on the other side, I would say my question is amateur way and gallery lane. That's belong to the HOA. Are we taking care of that road? It says in here that there will be a speed of 25, and then also on the amateur way, establishing new posted speed limit on the amateur way. And amateur way, I know it belongs to Tournament Hills 2, inside the gated community. Are we doing any enforcement on that community?
Inside the gated communities, we don't have jurisdiction over the California Vehicle Code unless it's a misdemeanor charge. So it's 25 miles an hour, 25-mile posted speed limit inside the gated community. However, we cannot do enforcement in that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's really a notification on
Correct.
that area.
Most residential areas are all 25 miles per hour.
Okay. Yeah, because I live in Tournament Hill 1, and I used to be a president in there. We never coordinate with you on the speed limit
Yes.
on the on that community,
Correct.
on that side. So they could, on that HOA, could request from your enforcement to implement that too, right?
Yes.
Not without the really.
That would have to be a whole contract for services to enforce traffic laws inside the gated community.
Okay.
Such as Four Seasons, we can enforce traffic in there. We have a contract with them, so we'd have to go through a process like that.
Okay. Very good. I think that's about it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Maher, do you have a
Sure.
question?
I know that these are the recommendations that come off the engineering report. So if we disagree with a segment, does that do anything to, I mean, is there anything that we need to be concerned about, or is there any?
Yes, so council, you guys, we can go the route of adopting the rest of the segments.
Okay.
And if you don't want to adopt this one tonight for the first reading, it would have to be resurveyed in that area. And later on, when the redevelopment comes about and roundabouts or to slow traffic down for the survey, we can look at it at that time. But for the time being, the survey came back 35 miles per hour based on the percentile that the engineer did. So in order to change it, we would have to go through a whole nother survey for that area to change it.
Sorry?
You're gonna have to change something in order for the survey results to change.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
You gotta slow the traffic or calm it or
Yeah.
change something about it, or the survey's gonna be the same.
Xanax, does that help? No? Sorry.
Creative.
Well, so I mean, I understand what Mayor Carroll is after and the concerns there through that business area. I'm just, what suggestions do we have that would change that to?
I know, well, I will continue with council, but it's come to my attention that if we don't use what's recommended, that limits your ability to do citations, is that correct?
Correct. If the council does not pass that segment, then we will not be able to enforce any radar or LiDAR enforcement, speeding enforcement in that area.
Oh.
Up till December, until the current survey expires.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna
Just
turn it
a
over
quick
to you.
comment. So, but the reason I had an issue with it was simply based on the general plan update that we were looking at,
Right.
which would redesign that. So the redesign would be something that would cause it to be changed.
That would trigger a new survey.
Trigger.
So we redesign and then we implement those design concepts. That would then, we would need to trigger a new traffic survey to establish the speed limits
For that segment.
in conjunction with that, for those segments.
So that would be our time to do that, or how soon could that be, just the design alone? Or does it actually have to be implemented to where construction is being done in order to trigger a new?
It would, you'd have to have the physical changes into the street. And so one of the things that we were looking at is with the specific plan for downtown and the street segments that were considered, and we talked about that at the last planning commission meeting, and bringing those to council here fairly soon. We're close to finishing out the TIA that we were looked at, which contemplated some of those solutions that were discussed at the council meeting, at the commission meeting. Once we bring that back, get a direction on what capital steps to make, then we'll develop a capital plan that will go back out and look. What we talked about doing for particularly the area here in front of this section of downtown was doing an overlay and striping, and going ahead and implementing those changes, those markings on the pavement, which would definitely be a change condition from what we have today.
Councilmember White?
I really have nothing to add.
Okay, well, I I have one other comment. One of the things I do hear, I mean, unfortunately, I've heard quite a bit about the businesses that would like the traffic to be slower through there, not faster. So that's why I bring it up, and I'm sorry it creates some difficulty for it. But we did talk about doing more crosswalks so that there's no crosswalk for such a long period of time on that block. So is that a physical change that would affect the estimate of how fast the traffic should be? Because there's also one crosswalk that I know of that you can see, if you're standing on top of it, that it's so faded. So, I mean, you know, there may be painting of crosswalks we could do. Does that qualify as a physical change?
It could be. You have to be careful where you put crosswalks, though. You have to have them at the intersections. If you have a crosswalk mid-block, that's going to cause a lot of liability issues. You just have to mark, but it could affect the, you know, outcome of, you know, the redevelopment of the roadway.
That's a really long block there, that one block. That's why they go so fast. They kind of pick up speed after the light, and they're just trying to get through to get to the highway. So,
Mayor, I do have a quick question. Are there already crosswalks at each stop sign?
Right, so in the city, we do not have any uncontrolled crosswalks. So they're gonna either be controlled by a stop sign or a stop light. So if we'd have to do another traffic survey, right, to say we could put the crosswalk there, and then we could put a stop sign there. So we're limited by some of the businesses when you get off the freeway, because the Caltrans encroachment areas, so you come off, you can't just have a stop sign right there. So Wellwood that was the closest we can get to the off-ramps, right? So, but if you have a stop sign and a crosswalk, then the 35 could be fine, because you're slowing traffic down for the stop sign, right? And that's just a good fix before we move on to major redevelopment of that downtown. But the one thing, you know, we didn't write the staff report to make it clear, and I apologize for that. What we want you to do tonight, in accordance with the traffic engineer, is to treat this as a first reading. But we'd like you to consider, the recommendation will be to approve the traffic survey in its entirety for the first reading. We're going to bring this back to you, which we're going to come back in mid-September with it.
okay.
We'll have time to sit down or work with you however you want to answer these questions in more detail, and then bring it back.
Okay.
So that may give us some room to make adjustments on
Right,
it.
we'll give you some
All right,
room.
that's good.
But the one area I want to caution is, you know, once the traffic engineer says 35, any recommendation to make it lower, then when if we were to write a citation for anything above, let's say you want 30, but we write for 35, because we give people a little cushion on the posted. When they request and they get a copy of that survey to go to traffic court, it looks like we created a speed trap. And we need to be very careful about
Yeah.
that perception too. That we're not trying to lower
I
it so
can
we can
understand
it
that.
higher.
Well, I can kind of understand that,
Yeah.
but
May I
The
ask that
volume.
question again? Are there crosswalks at every stop sign right now?
No, there's not crosswalks at every stop sign, but there's stop signs or signal
Signal
lights
lights.
at every crosswalk.
Okay.
So,
But if we added a crosswalk at a stop sign that was not there, does that create a problem, number one? And number two, does that help get around what we're trying to do here?
and in May, we're gonna have to take it back to survey.
But we're going to go back to survey either now or when we redesign downtown, right?
This would just be a very, and Lieutenant Earl's very adverse in traffic, but my understanding is, so now we just wanted to look at this one section for a crosswalk and a stop sign, not redo the entire.
I'm just saying if there's already a stop sign there, it's already controlled. If we add a crosswalk where there's already a stop sign, what kind of problems does that create? Maybe you can bring that back in the next.
Yeah. Is there a street you have in mind? I'm trying to think.
No, I'm trying to work with them,
Okay.
and that was my first question. I mean, I think the mayor was asking to add a crosswalk. I don't think she was asking to add it in the middle of a block. And so I wasn't thinking that, so that's why I thought, well, maybe if we just put a crosswalk where there's already a stop sign.
Well, and there's a crosswalk at California. There's a cross at Beaumont Avenue. And then there's a cross at Orange. and then there's that cross at Palm.
And further east, I'm sorry, west is Wellwood. There's a crosswalk at Wellwood, which is a stop sign.
Okay.
Right there, and there's one at Pennsylvania. So do you want us to kind of focus in that area, say between Palm and California, in that section? Or do you want us to look at the entirety of 6th Street?
I thought the concern was the other side, wasn't it?
It's
That's what I was hearing.
Antique Road.
Yeah, the concern is from California as it goes up to, what's the next one up? Up by the Women's Club.
To Edgar?
That block there.
Okay, right there.
So that's the one where the businesses have been complaining the most about the speed.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fair enough, so we can focus, we can contact the traffic engineer and focus on that in between now and when we come back in mid-September.
Okay.
Do you mind if Omer talks to you a little bit? I think he has a couple of ideas.
I was trying not to expand this too much.
Sorry.
This one particular one is where I've gotten all the complaints, and I don't know if anybody else has.
I think we may have an idea for 6th Street in general that Omer can talk about in timing before this before your current study expires.
All right.
So what we can do, we can approve the study as it is at 35 miles an hour. We can go back and do additional work. Now, the crosswalk, adding a crosswalk at the stop sign will not slow down traffic. Traffic is already coming to a stop.
That's true.
And the crosswalk exists even if it's not painted. People are able to cross at a stop sign. What will slow traffic down is reducing the lane size. Let's say in front of City Hall, the lane is not painted. It allows for a very wide travel way and people speed through that area. We can narrow that down by adding parking bike lanes and narrow it down to 10 feet or 11 feet. And that reduces the travel path that slows people down. That's traffic calming. We can also add striped left turn lanes. Those calm the traffic down. And what we can do is we don't have to go to the traffic engineer again to do the full study. We can do the striping, can implement that, and then do a study ourselves. And then bring that portion, just the downtown portion, back to you before December and implement that as a reduced
And that may
study.
keep you from upping the speed and then
Right.
turning around and having to lower it.
But if we narrow the part of the road without doing a study to determine whether or not it's going to bottleneck back up the road, aren't we just creating another problem that we?
We're not reducing the capacity of the lane.
Okay.
So the capacity of the lane exists. It's just one lane there. It has the 2,000 vehicle per day capacity. What we're doing is we're reducing the speed. And you still have one lane. Instead of now going 35 or 45 miles an hour, you can go 30 miles an hour. You still get the same number of cars through. So the capacity is not impacted in doing that.
I just wonder if you now have bike riders in a bike path and the speed is already a problem, right, Mayor? I mean, the problem is not going up the speed, but the speed's a problem already. That's why we don't want to go to 35.
It would make it safer if we stripe it. It would actually make the roadway safer because now there is delineated area for bike lane, delineated area for the vehicles to travel, delineated area for people to park.
Okay.
And by creating that, you create a pathway that slows people down. So I think we can look at that. We can come back with the plan, the striping plan. We can have that design done, approved, and striped fairly quickly because there is no construction involved other than striping. And we can, once that's in place, we can redo the survey and see what the speed limit comes out.
So we could approve this tonight, and then you can address those ways to potentially slow down the traffic while keeping the safety for bike, et cetera, and that should cover us.
That would be my recommendation.
And we can have an opportunity to talk more before the second reading, right? Okay.
It wouldn't be before the second reading, it would be before the end of the year, for example, when the...
All right, but I mean, you'd have more time to talk to us about before the second reading.
That is
okay.
Mayor, I'll move to approve and adopt the engineering traffic survey as the first
So
reading.
you're approving it, and then they'll come back with any changes at a later time. It's not really a second reading. I mean, you're approving.
Okay.
Make a comment.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, just real quick, Amr, I would also like reports, when you do that lane narrowing, some people don't drive very well with narrow lanes, and so I'd be concerned about accident increases, so I'd like to get a report on that if that's... What's that? So I just...
We'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
one of the things we'll evaluate are the concepts that have been discussed as part of the 6th Street traffic impact
Right.
study and the specific plan.
Okay.
So, because I think it'd be bad to restripe and then come back later and then restripe again.
Right, I agree.
So it'd be nice to coordinate all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will make a motion to,
I had
We have
a motion by.
I move to
Oh, you
approve
did.
the first
Okay.
reading.
I'll go ahead and second it.
all right.
Okay, and you're approving the survey.
You're right, approve and adopt the engineering traffic survey for the establishment of posted speed limits in the city of Beaumont.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Item 8, supplemental agreement for the use of the 2018-2019 Community Development Block Grant Funds. This was pulled because there are some questions on it. The first question, do we have any public? We don't have any public requests. Okay. Is actually from Councilmember Lara. I
Yes.
think you wanted to know about the ADA upgrade.
So, yeah, I think, first of all, I like the idea of pulling that and investing that into Wrangell Park that hasn't been invested in quite a while. The only question that I had was this, because I know it was curb and sidewalk, or just sidewalk only, so can we now include ADA component to that, or access to that park?
Yes, the application we will put together for Wrangell Park, I think we're looking at doing it over 2 years in 2 phases. So we will put together what we would do in the first year. If it incorporates the sidewalk improvements, then it would have the ADA access component as well attached to that.
Okay, and then are there any other ideas for that park that we're thinking of at this point?
So last year, we thought we were going to have some extra money, so we actually put together a supplemental project that we sent over for Rebecca to submit. The idea then, when we came forward with you in June with the CIP, was to transfer those funds over and actually do the project. And so we're looking at a full redevelopment of that park. The first concept would be to get with the neighborhood and actually do neighborhood input. It's very important for them to have investment in what you're putting in, what's important to them. We would be looking at upgrading the play structure. Again, everything would have to be ADA compliant. New fencing, go out there, the fencing it needs a little love and maybe some upgrade. We would be looking at potentially putting in some new restrooms, so that when they are doing the ball field, they actually have restrooms to go. Those were closed some years ago, are not really fit for being reopened at this point. An upgraded ball field, and so if you've gone out there, the stands for the ball field almost sit in the right-of-way on the sidewalk, and so we need to get those out from a safety feature. We've actually looked at the concept of flipping the ball field, and so just flipping it internally so the restrooms actually go on the play structure side of the park, and then the ball fields would have a natural access use of those as well. So there'd be a little bit of regrading and ball field, and so we've split that. We've put some cost estimates to it. It may end up being more than 2 years. We've looked at some internal funding to supplement as well. And then the last idea, if we end up having just a windfall of money, is to put a splash pad out there so there is a wet water feature for the neighborhood.
Oh.
Again, also running all of those concepts through the neighborhood first, because that may not be their first preference.
Sure.
Even though we think it's a good addition. A covered pavilion, they may rather use that space as a covered pavilion area. And so our plan will be, if council approves this and we're able to move things over, is to immediately get with the neighborhood and start conversations and doing just some very rough park concepts. We'll bring that back to you, let you see it once we kind of finalize it with the neighborhood, and then we would move forward from there.
Oh, great. I think that's a great idea. Thank you very much.
May I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I know a citizen who has been pushing for a splash pad, and he has told me that he would raise the money for the splash pad.
Great.
So if you're really going to go that way, let me know. I know that he's
Okay.
very eager to contribute to that.
Absolutely. From an aquatics background, I'm a huge fan of splash pads because there's no drowning risk. They're also, because we have great California weather, I think they're going to be open a lot longer than you would have a traditional swimming pool open, because you don't have staff and no drowning risk. You can open 8 to 10 months out of the year instead of the 8 to 12 weeks that we're able to open a traditional swimming pool.
And they travel all over just to find these splash pads.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
I love them. So.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
call.
I appreciate that.
Any other concerns? Do I have a?
Make a motion to approve the,
Second? Go ahead.
I'm doing, sorry.
You made a motion to approve the supplemental.
The supplemental agreement for the use of 2018-2019 Community Development Block Grant Funds.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we get a secondary motion that authorizes the city manager to submit to reallocate the funds to Rangel Park? Rebecca needs that specifically for the application.
Oh, yes.
Item number 2.
Oh,
Recommendation
Thank
2.
you.
modify the motion, or do I
That's-
modify the motion to allow?
Or second motion, either way. We just, John, do you have a preference?
Just do another motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move the supplemental agreement fund or block grant funds to be used for Wrangell improvements at Wrangell Park.
It would be to authorize the city manager to submit a CDBG application for Rangel Park and approve reallocation of the 1819 sidewalk, curb, and gutter improvement funds to that Rangel Park application.
So moved?
Second.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Action items. I have had a request to move item 13 up to the front of the action items to be taken as the next item. If I have no concerns, we're going to go ahead with item 13. Item 13, approve of preliminary official statement relating to the 2018A wastewater revenue bonds with a staff report by our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And have a couple experts in the audience here that are going to give you the details. So Cyrus Tarabi with Stradling, and then we got Katie Koster, who you'll recognize with Piper Jeffrey. So this is the next step in the process of a public issuance of our bonds that we're contemplating to fund our sewer project. But I'd like to recap real quickly, just a minute, Cyrus, on how we got here and kind of where we're going overall with our project. So recap is that we had some mandates that we had to address through the Regional Water Quality Control Board. That order that was associated with that had a list and a timeline for specific actions. We have met those timelines, and we've continued to proceed forward. We have amended our utility rates pursuant to Prop 218 process, and those rates are now being put into effect. So the first year of the 5 years went into effect here, July 1. And we'll be looking at an annual review of those rates every year as part of a budget process to look at where we go over the next 5 years. The project has been out to bid, and as we've seen, our bid results for the 3 different segments that we bid have all come in within budget. So now we know that we can fund our project with existing cash and with these anticipated bond proceeds. The city has established its ability to fund through a public offering. And so the next process is that we are working towards having funds in hand through a bond sale, to have them here in September, and awarding bids for construction in October. And then we've opened up conversations with the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District to begin talking about strategies for deploying our reuse water. So that's kind of the overall recap of where we are. And now, Cyrus, if you can kind of take us through our preliminary offering statement and.
Sure, happy to. Thank you. Mayor Carroll, members of the council, pleased to be here. Cyrus Tarabi with Stradling Yaka, the city's bond counsel and disclosure counsel. So as Todd mentioned, the resolutions before you tonight approve the disclosure document for the wastewater bond deal. the city has previously approved all the legal documents in July. So important things to understand about the preliminary official statement, the disclosure document. The SEC considers this to be the city's document, and the Joint Powers Authority, the Beaumont Public Improvement Authority, which is also approving or considering the document tonight, that entity's document as well. So the city has retained my firm as disclosure counsel. There is a financial advisor, Urban Futures, and the city's underwriter as well has provided significant input, as has the city attorney. But ultimately, this is the city's document and the authority's document. So I just wanted to make that clear from the SEC's perspective. The city is signing the document, and we appreciate kind of your thorough review and any comments and any clarifications, cleanups, questions directed to staff, and we'll try to get this document in the proper order to get it out into the market. So the purpose of the document is essentially to disclose material information about the credit to investors, and that has two components. One is everything that's in there should be accurate, and there should be no material omissions, the second component. So in other words, if A, B, and C are relevant facts about the wastewater system and the bond deal, you can't state A and B fully and correctly and then omit any mention of fact C, just as an example. The city has adopted disclosure policies and procedures, and I can tell you from our perspective, we've reviewed those and believe that the process by which this document was prepared meets the city's disclosure policies and procedures. Staff was involved from the beginning in developing the information, taking it out to the various departments and gathering facts and projections and numbers. And then that information was vetted by the working group I mentioned. There was a formal due diligence call last week, I guess, last Friday, where the Underwriters Council asked questions about the document, and the purpose of that call was to ensure, as I said, material information was present and correct, and nothing material was omitted. So we believe that the steps that were required to get to this point have been taken. In terms of the document itself, I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but generally speaking, the document in the kind of early pages describes the credit. This is a wastewater system credit. There's no general fund obligation to pay these bonds. There's no obligation to levy taxes, for instance, to pay these bonds. These bonds are payable solely from revenues of the wastewater system remaining after operation and maintenance costs of the wastewater system are paid. So there's a description of how that all works in the first few pages of the document. Some pertinent facts about the bonds will be in there. They're currently blank because we haven't sold the bonds, but the document that you're approving has kind of the forms of how all that will work. Redemption, meaning early payment of the bonds. There are provisions for that, again, to be filled in after the bonds are actually sold. And then other kind of legal provisions, for instance, if the city were ever to do another wastewater deal, the tests that must be met in order for the city to enter into another wastewater bond offering. And then the document goes on to describe the wastewater system, the physical assets of the system, and then some, kind of operating data about the system for the last 5 years. That's generally the look-back period that investors care about. And then there are projections in there, the city's projections of the next 5 years of operations, and kind of a description of the assumptions by which the city arrived at those projections. Other information in the document includes descriptions of the kind of federal and state investigations of previous management and previous city leadership. There's some risk factors in there, and there's information about the rating, and I don't want to steal Todd's thunder or Christine's thunder here, but we did get a rating today, and so I'm happy to report that unless you guys wanted to.
Thank you for the opening. The rating came through today. All council knows about it, but not necessarily the public. And we have been rated at investment grade A+ by Standard & Poor's. So that's pretty astounding work by the staff and by also our consultants and your support and Piper Jaffray's support. So we really are pleased with that. And we're also have gotten an insurance guarantee. So we're pretty pleased. It's a good day for ending that sentence. So thank you.
Great, thank you. I guess that was really all I had, but I'm happy to answer any questions either about the document or the resolution approving the document, if there are any.
And I'd say one of the adjustments that we'll make in the final official statement will be really expanding the source of funds that we can apply towards the project. So right now it talks about the application of impact fees, but we probably want to broaden that out to allow you to use other available wastewater resources. So it basically be revised to say impact fees and any other available.
Other available monies. Yeah.
Sources.
Thank you. I will open it up to council. Councilmember White?
First of all, we got that A+ rating, even though we had a complaint of all the criminal activity that's still happening that was actually mailed directly to Standard & Poor's. Did that come up in the process at all?
No, they did not mention a letter to us.
So I do want to go over a couple concerns that have been raised. First of all, Stradling Yoka was the firm that we used as we worked through the SEC investigation, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay. And since that investigation, and since we went through the process of fulfilling the conditions of the order from the SEC, I've noticed that there's been some complaints filed as recent as last month, talking about forging documents, criminal activities by this staff and this current council, not fulfilling the SEC conditions, using law firms that are not eligible to work in California, and illegally trading bond debt for mitigation fees. Those are just some of the complaints that have been made. And actually, last month in July, there was even a complaint last time you folks were here in front of us regarding a public offering that we denied. There's complaints that have been sent to the SEC. As our SEC attorney, you would hear from the SEC if any of these complaints were problems moving forward on our bond funding, correct?
Right, I think we would have heard about that. And when you say complaint, just to be clear, you're not talking about a lawsuit filed in state or federal.
No, just emails that put out a whole bunch of fake news. And so I just want to make sure that we review all that and that we're moving forward. So my last question is, I know that there were some concerns in the past that the disclosures on the Emma website were not up to date for the city of Beaumont, and so I just wanted to confirm that they are up to date now, or if they're not up to date, do we have the documentation to get them up to date?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is I didn't mention it specifically, but there is a requirement under securities law to disclose the city's past 5 years of history of compliance with continuing disclosure obligations. So we do have a paragraph about that in this document, and everything that should have been filed is now filed. So we can state that. We state essentially certain things that were late, not previously filed. As of the date of this document, everything has been filed, and that has been confirmed, I guess, by the financial advisor, and I think the underwriter also does a review of that.
And in your experience, would that be up to date with Emma now, or is that something, because I know it's probably happening right now. They're Googling the Emma website to see if we have these all up to date, so.
Yeah, we believe everything is filed and available on Emma at this time.
Okay,
Correct.
And we've even got the most recent financial reporting from the most recently accepted audit, which has been uploaded to Emma as well.
Great, and I think that was also alerted to the SEC that that audit was forged and done by unscrupulous characters. So I just want to make sure that all of this, this information that we keep hearing for I don't know how many years now is just really fake news. So I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember Santos, do you have any questions?
I don't have questions, but I really appreciate, all the things that you've done. I mean, Todd, Chris, you guys, and I do expect, I'll be happy to have it, triple B when we started this. I mean, but we have A plus. Man, I'm jumping with joy inside my heart, man. I mean, people doesn't know what's that A plus. I mean, we could do a lot. I mean, it means, we're there. I mean, we're getting there. So I really appreciate that on your professionalism and everything in here. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, and I too am extremely excited about the A+ rating. And please correct me if I misspeak, but the A+ rating, long-term, saves our constituents money, does it not, as opposed to not having the A+ rating whenever we go out for bonds?
Yeah, I think, Katie, I don't know if you want to speak to that specifically, but generally that's correct. I'll let Katie Koster
Thank you very
kind of
much.
bring some detail to that discussion.
Good evening, Council. Yes, so an A+ rating is a significant achievement for the city. And anytime that you can get a transaction into investment grade category, it's going to save you money. To put it into context, we had shown the council numbers previously with respect to this transaction, and at the time we were assuming a triple B plus to be conservative, and we were also adding a little bit of padding on the current interest rate in order to be conservative. In today's market, the spread between a triple B plus credit and an A credit is between 25 and 30 basis points, so roughly 1/3%. And then on top of that, we did have a little bit of fluff in there. So we're probably going to be looking at rates that are as much as 0.5% lower than what you'd previously seen.
Wow.
And then on top of that, as you know, we have been talking to insurers with respect to both insuring either all or a portion of the bonds, along with a surety instead of having a cash-funded debt service reserve fund. We've gotten at least one of the two to commit. The other is, 95% of the way there, and we're just waiting to get their bids because they were also waiting on the rating in order to be able to price the insurance and the surety. We should have that information back to the city this week, and that will additionally lower the interest rate and the total cost of funds because you won't have to fund a cash-funded debt service reserve fund. So all of these facts are really going to be very beneficial to the overall total debt service that you'll pay for those facilities.
Perfect. And thank you for your hard work on this project as well. I just think it goes to show, hopefully, the citizens that we are working in their best interest, and regardless of what you hear on the sidelines, our long-term goal, staff's long-term goal, is to do the best we can with the finances that we're provided.
Yes. And if I could just add an aside.
Please.
In speaking with the rating analyst from S&P, they had a very robust discussion in credit committee with respect to the credit, and the overall turnaround in the management, new policies, new transparency, all weighed very heavily to get to that A+. So it's been a pleasure working with you all, and I'm as happy as any of you up there on the results. So congratulations.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I will say the work that you did in San Francisco was exemplary. I mean, it was a great team effort by staff and a great team effort by all of you. So obviously, you really helped to make this happen. And Councilmember Laura's right. The only reason we did it, really, is for the citizens of the community in the first place. And the payback methodology for the bond was bulletproof. It was really well constructed and well thought out, and Standard & Poor's really asked the right questions and asked a lot of hard questions. So I couldn't be more pleased with the end result. Thank you very much for your work. It's much appreciated.
So, Madam Mayor, the item that's before you is 13A, and so you're actually going to be voting as the Board of Directors of the Beaumont Public Improvement Authority on item 13A.
All right.
Isn't it council in 13A and then?
The first resolution is council.
Okay. That's the opposite on mine.
Okay. So we need a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont approving a preliminary official statement in connection with the issuance of wastewater revenue bonds, Series 2018A, and approving the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection therewith and certain other matters. Do you want me to continue reading with the full reading, or do you want me to get a motion on that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
You just have to include the
Yeah.
portion after it says you're going to.
I'll make the motion to waive the full reading and approve by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont approving a preliminary official statement in connection with the issuance of wastewater revenue bonds, Series 2018A, and approving the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection therewith and certain other means. Recess the meeting of the City Council and convene a meeting of Beaumont Public Improvement Authority with the modifications made by the city manager to add other means.
Second.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. So do I need to convene now?
The next part.
So the next item you're going to do,
Okay.
you're going to take action as the Beaumont
then-
Public
all right.
Improvement Authority, as the board of that entity.
Okay, so so we'll proceed with the resolution of the Board of Directors of the Beaumont Public Improvement Authority approving a preliminary official statement in connection with the issuance of its wastewater revenue bonds, Series 2018A, and approving the execution delivery of certain documents in connection therewith and certain other matters.
Mayor, I move to waive the full reading and approve by title only a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Beaumont Public Improvement Authority approving a preliminary official statement in connection with the issuance of its wastewater revenue bonds, Series 2018A, and approving the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection therewith and certain other matters, adjourn the meeting of the Beaumont Public Improvement Authority, and reconvene the meeting of the City Council.
I'll second that.
Board Member Santos?
Yes.
Board Member White?
Yes.
Board Member Lara?
Yes.
Vice Chair Martinez?
Yes.
Chair Carroll?
Yes.
Congratulations, council.
Yeah.
Let's congratulate you, man.
Thank you so much, guys.
You know, Mayor, I also see that we have a friend from the Water Board here following up with us, making sure that we're following, staying on track. So I just want to make that as public comment.
Excellent.
And we're actually getting him out before 10 o'clock. Normally, when Keith is here, we have him here till pretty close to midnight, right?
Okay. With I'm losing my voice again. Item 14, fiscal year 2018-19 Development Impact Fee Program. No, I'm back to 11, sorry.
You're not that far yet.
11. I was wondering why you were standing there, Ashley. I said, you've changed hats. Branding Identity Services Professional Service Contract Award with a staff report by Ashley. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On Friday, June 22nd, staff released an RFP for branding and identity services, which is a core component of the strategic communications plan that you approved in February. We received an overwhelming response of 26 proposals from firms across the country. Following the interviews of the top 3 firms, the selection team recommends entering into a professional services contract with CV Strategies. The decision was based on their extensive background in local government, where they currently have ongoing communication initiatives with more than 70 public agencies throughout California, including the cities of La Quinta, Redlands, Corona, and recently with Coachella on a similar branding and messaging initiative. The contract will address the following scope of services: develop a brand identity, assess current logo, develop a lifestyle logo and graphic elements, and develop graphic standards, messaging, and collateral, all of which will be produced by their in-house team. To gauge the success and return on investment, CV Strategies will conduct online surveys at the beginning, midpoint, and end to determine public perceptions regarding the City of Beaumont's services, brand value, and communications. In addition to online surveys, website and social media analytics will be used to continually adjust the approach, match media to audience, and message to result. There will also be regular meetings with staff to discuss success metrics, engagement possibilities, strategies, and tactics. The cost proposal submitted by CV Strategies is estimated at $29,750 for the scope of services and is included in the fiscal year 18-19 budget allocation for professional services. To conclude, staff recommends approving the award of contract to CV Strategies, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And we also have account manager Sean Harkness available with CV Strategies as well.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't necessarily have a presentation for you. I believe you have the proposal in front of you, but I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any public comments on this?
We do not.
All right, thank you. First business taken care of. I'll open it up to council questions now. Councilmember White, do you have any questions?
I'll wait. I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I was trying to read what I wrote here. All right, so my first general question was, it says that the scope of the project is supposed to coordinate with the general plan. Okay, but we haven't written the general plan yet, so how are we coordinating with that?
We have specific items in the general plan that have been established based on community surveys and the general plan group that's been established. So we have those metrics kind of that we're going to base the future of the branding on.
Oh, okay, so kind of a general idea thing. Okay, and I'll come back to me because I have to figure out what I wrote here.
Do you, Councilmember Santos, do you have questions?
No, I don't have a specific question.
Councilmember Laura?
So just to confirm publicly, the jurisdictions that are referenced are ones that you have actually worked with, correct?
Correct.
All right. Making sure.
Okay, I have some questions on where you've done this before. How do you measure your success at the end of your project? How do you know that it's been a very successful, positive approach that you've taken when you do this branding? Because branding's a tough one to measure, and that's why I asked.
It is a tough one, which we survey beginning, in the middle, and at the end. These surveys kind of give us a gauge of where we stand at each stage of what people are perceiving about the city at this point in time before we embark on anything. And as we move through the process, that's where we get to the middle point. That also allows us to see what is working at a preliminary stage and if we need to change course with anything that we've been working with the city. And we wrap up kind of towards the end and get an analysis. Now that the plan has been in place for a period of time, that's when we can look and see where things have changed since the very beginning before we started implementing any changes. We also are going with ongoing monitoring of websites, social media, and media coverage as well. That all helps play into how we're measuring success.
Okay. And what would you say your greatest success story is in your branding?
Some of the stuff that we've worked on recently with the city of Coachella. It's a younger city, it's a growing city, and they were kind of starting from a point where they really didn't have any identity for the city themselves. A lot of people hear Coachella, they think of the music festival, which technically doesn't even take place in their city. So we worked a lot with them on trying to move past and distinguish that it's a distinct community. We've worked with their water and sewer departments as well, because there's a similar named Coachella Valley Water Authority that handles similar services. So we migrated that, worked on branding with them to migrate that more towards Coachella Water and Sanitary District, which didn't involve a legal change of name because it was a department within the city, but branding it separately, giving it a distinct website, and that was an example where we were able to help distinguish the services of the city from a different agency.
All right, and I'm going to ask you, which one didn't go as well as you would have liked, and why do you think that happened?
That is a good question. Now, I've only been with the firm for a few months, so I'm just going based on
okay.
my experience. Yes.
We may have to take a stab at that one then.
I will take a stab at that one. We've had some with the city of Indio where I think they've kind of backed away. We've worked with them on some recommendations to try and again advance their city, and some of it has been political and divisions within the city council that have kind of backed away from plans that we've recommended. So instead of moving forward with some of the branding initiatives, they've chosen to step back a little bit.
Okay. Thanks. Do I have any other questions?
I remember what I was going to ask. Basically, my question was, since we're a month off, is that really going to just move everything about a month off of the time schedule that you have, the timeline?
That would be our intent. Once it's approved and we get started, we would just slide.
Just kind of push it up then. Okay, I just didn't know if that was going to create any other issues with you, but since this
We are
was already...
not locked in ourselves on those times. Those were our recommendations.
Okay,
Should good enough time to adequately address the issues.
Mayor, I'd like to approve the award of contract for branding identity to CV Strategies.
I'll second.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 12, resolution of the City of Beaumont authorizing submittal of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, CWSRF, application for the septic conversion project on 6th Street and Maple Avenue.
Honorable Mayor, Council Member, we had submitted an application for a conversion of septic to sewer system in some portions of our city. This is in continuance of that. There is about 128 parcels identified in that area that you just described. Out of that, several of them are low income, so they're eligible for this grant. This grant is only for connecting low income parcels from septic to sewer system. We believe there's about 121 additional parcels that can be connected. The total grant money that's available is $4,782,614. They will convert and connect these homes to the sewer system. One of the things about this grant is it's being administered by the state. They are completely taking the role of providing the design, the environmental, and then having this conversion take into effect. What we're doing is submitting an application for the conversion. So it's a financial application that we're submitting. What we're requesting is the city authorize us to submit, the staff to submit the application, authorize city manager to sign all the documents that are needed. There are 5 items in the resolution. One of the change that we're requesting as well is on item number 5. It says not to exceed $4,782,614. We'd like to strike not exceed from it because they're willing to pay more money if there is additional funds needed to complete the project. So by doing that, we will be limiting ourselves. There is no need to limit ourselves to 4.7 million. That concludes my staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not.
All right, thank you. If I will take questions from council or a motion.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
When you say Sixth / Maple project, this is Sixth, and then another part is on Maple, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The section at 6th Street, are those homes single residential homes, or are they mobile homes, or?
There's a combination of that. There are several. There is a mobile home park that's there. That'll be one of them.
Okay.
There are other homes that are there. If I can, there's a map attached to the.
Yeah, I saw that, and you answered my question, because the concern when I think we first started talking about this almost 4 years ago, over 3.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the concern that was brought up, and I've got some concerns from people who live in some of those mobile home parks, is that we'd be improving the property of the mobile home park owner, or are these mobile homes owned by individual residents? I mean,
it really isn't an improvement in per se to the park. If the park was if the residents living in the park qualified, it would be similar to a rental program where there is a rental.
So my concern is, and I think we have some other park owners that we might either have been in the past in litigation with, is that a park owner gets basically an improvement to their property by getting sewer instead of septic, and then they raise the rates on the people who live in the mobile homes. That is a concern that I would have. And that was what was brought up when we talked about this about 3.5 years ago. So I don't know if there's a concern with that.
That what a park owner would do to raise rates, and the reason they would use would be outside of the limit of what we're doing. What we're trying to do is to make sure that the water is clean, and then the sewer goes into the sewage rather than going into the septic system. What we're trying to do is preserve the environment. Now, those two things are not connected. The park owner may try to raise rents, but that's another issue that they need to handle separately. That doesn't belong in this. We applied for a grant, and we believe this is best for the city, overall city, not just for them. There isn't that in the park.
But I think when we brought this before, John, you probably remember, it was actually Mr. Orozco who was championing this issue. And I think we were all very hesitant to give the park owners an opportunity or an incentive to increase rents on people who are already living there, because now they can sell the property as, hey, it's not a septic tank anymore.
Well, this is an issue of protecting your groundwater. I mean, that's really what it is. Right. You want to move away from septic systems and into sewer where it's treated at your plant. And so this is in furtherance of this, and it's a way to procure.
But I'm not suggesting we don't do this.
And we can't control what the park owners do, but inevitably, this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. If you're going to protect your, limited resource, which is your groundwater.
Yeah. Who pays the sewer bill then if we do these connections? Does the individual mobile homeowner pay an individual separate bill, or is there an aggregate bill for the whole park?
The way the way we would bill will not change. So if the homeowner is paying, the homeowner will keep paying. If the park owner is paying, they'll paying. So one of the things that I do want to point out is if the park owner had to borrow money and do these improvements, then he would actually charge a lot more to get these improvements in. Because if he was forced by law to do this thing, then he would be forced to now pass that on. So in a way, this is helping keeping the cost down, because this is a low-income area, and the properties that qualify are only low-income. So in that sense, it helps that area getting in compliance.
I understand. I just know people who live in those parks, and they're not very happy with the property, the park owners, and they feel that they're taken advantage of. And if the scenario you brought up happened, it would actually be the park owner who did that. Whereas here, it'll be perceived that the city was the one who made it an option for them to raise the rates because now they have something better to. I understand it's a difficult problem. I just want to bring that up because I just don't want to be helping somebody who is already questionable as far as the way they're treating their tenants.
Well, one of the things I think we can probably surmise is that the cost to the operator is going to go up because if there's a septic, are they really operating the septic systems like they should be operated, which is probably not. They're probably not being pumped. So their cost, their out-of-pocket cost to operate the park is probably very minimal. When this comes in, and particularly if we wind up billing the park owner directly, then their costs are going to go up significantly. So they are going to have to pass that on to the renters. So I would anticipate that just based on the increased costs that they're going to see month to month, that is going to cost. I mean, I would presume that in itself would necessitate an increase in rent.
Well,
So I think just having the service provided will create that situation.
I've talked to some of the homeowners in there, and they have trouble like doing their laundry and,
Right.
you know, because the septic system is overworked, overused, and needs to be repaired. But, and I am concerned too, and I remember the concern about that the cost to the residents may go up if this goes to sewer. And that was why I asked who pays the bill, because it seems to me that it's going to be harder for him to raise the space rent if in fact the individual homeowner has to pay their sewer. In other words, he can't blanket it that he's paying it because it has to be paid by the individual homeowner, correct? Or am I missing?
Correct. So if they're individually billed lots, then yes, then that bill is going directly to the homeowner, or to the tenant, not to the owner. And so they're paying their individual bills. The other aspect to this is that in having grant funds actually pay for this infrastructure, the landowner isn't paying for it. And at some point, we do get into an enforcement mechanism where when that area really fails, which it sounds like we're probably close, then something's going to have to be done.
Yeah.
And so we're facing a situation where, you know, we're headed to failure out there.
But there's no way that we could require the property owner to kick in some funding?
I think that's why it's been stalemated so long.
I think if you do that, then the property owner would definitely go back to the renters and say, you know what, I had to kick in X number of dollars.
And I understand as a property owner covering your cost, but I don't want them to take the opportunity to make more than their cost. But I said my piece.
So
we can move on.
What's intended by this, I believe, is to initiate the process to apply for financial assistance or financing to convert from septic to sewer. And it's my understanding from talking to the city manager that if you get to the point where you have an agreement before you, that will come back before the council before that agreement is entered into. Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, I will definitely vote to approve this tonight. I just wanted to raise those concerns, so if there was anything that we could do to alleviate some of those concerns, that we consider those. If not, I agree, it's important to do.
Councilmember Laura?
The concerns that I had initially when this was brought that we didn't get into much detail on was the health safety concerns of failing systems, and the failing systems are much more costly to maintain, and obviously they're not being maintained when you can't do laundry. The other concern that I had was when we get heavy rains, your system fails I think it's failed multiple times during heavy rains, and you have kids that are forced to walk over that or walk through that. That's another health safety concern. The other question I have though is, are we just taking the lateral up to where the park ties in, or are we also putting in private lines on private property, or is that the responsibility of the park owner?
Part of the project is to convert the septic away from it so that it goes all the way to the property. Part of that's the agreements that we'll have with the property owners. We'll be converting them, actually connecting them to the septic, to the sewer, taking them off septic.
So okay, so the park owner is not going to be responsible for putting the pipe on the property. So
So
Will
this
be doing
grant would be done, will be doing that, and they would be compensating city for the connection fees. All of that is inclusive of that. It's basically, and that's why it's only for low income. It's for the people who can't afford to do this, and they'll be doing it for them. This grant will be doing that for them.
That's a huge cost savings, long-term for park owners, as well as lease folks, renters.
And these programs were designed for disadvantaged communities that may not be able to otherwise convert from septic to sewer and protect the community's groundwater. So
Now, does the property owner then own the lines after that point and then responsible for maintaining within the property, and then the city's just up to the?
It's our ownership stays in the public right of way.
Right, and but just in the public right of way.
Mayor, before I make a motion, I just want to reiterate, I'm not against this. I just wanted to make sure that those concerns of the people who live in those parks was heard. So I would like to move to waive the full reading. No, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
We're on 14. My bad.
12.
We're on 12.
12.
No, I was reading the right one then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Move to waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont approving the application requesting funds from the State Water Resources Control Board under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Can we have that correction that I requested on item number 5?
Okay.
To strike not exceed from the.
Not to exceed what?
I don't see that.
It's on page, it's on resolution all the way to the second from the last line.
Page 356.
Okay, so how do we need to modify it?
I think it's just dropping the in an amount, not to.
Oh, we need the amount, okay.
So I'll amend paragraph 5, the authorized representative, his or her designees, is that the right one? Hereby authorized to negotiate and execute a financial assistance agreement from the State Water Resources Control Board and any amendments or change orders thereto, and certify financing agreement disbursements on behalf of the City of Beaumont in an amount not to exceed.
Yeah, striking not to exceed in an amount of $4,782,614.
As he said.
So I second that.
Strike the
No, striking not to exceed and adding.
So we're just dropping the not to exceed.
Because there's a potential additional.
Okay. I second it, so.
Okay.
vote.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Thank you. Item 14, fiscal year 2018-19 Development Impact Fee Program adjustment pursuant to the ordinances 1087, 1092, 1095, and Resolution 2017-23.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a work product that dates back to last year when we were doing all of the impact fee updates. So first was the June update, which the Public Works Department worked on the sewer capacity fee. The next were the work that myself and the city manager worked on for the rejoining of the TUMF program. And when we rejoined the TUMF program, we updated our local transportation fees. That would be the traffic signal, railroad crossing, and our local street and bridge component that's not part of the TUMF facilities. And then lastly, in November, we worked on the rest of the impact fees. So that were our parks, the public facility, fire station, police station, recreation center, and so forth. So all of those were approved back in November. So as part of each of these ordinances and the resolution for the sewer, the City Council approved automatic adjustments to be completed around the new fiscal year. So staff has been doing our research on the different consumer price indices related to each of the individual fees. The sewer capacity fee, the ordinance was done on consumer price index. That's one of the reasons that we're bringing it back now in August versus before the fiscal year, is that CPI needed to be done, and they don't publish CPI until probably like a month or so after this month that we need it. So a June to June CPI increase, you actually receive that probably halfway, if not towards the tail end of July. And then we have to put together all the other stuff and then put together a presentation for you. So that's why we're looking at increases in August. So upon completion of the transportation one, we looked at it. That's under the consumer or construction cost index that increased from September till now, 0.21%, so a little less than 1/4%. It's a very small nominal increase. Some of the other ones increased by about 0.4%. And then some of the other ones that were done in November related to buildings. So building cost index goes on buildings versus pavement or parks or things like that. So you see those increased a little bit more than the construction cost. So that's 0.79%. And lastly is CPI, which increased 4% June to June. So the following findings are the same findings that you all had made. I just put those on there kind of so that the public is aware of how the government code requires an agency to adopt a fee. It has to have a purpose, has to identify the use of that fee. And then lastly, it needs to determine that there's a reasonable relationship between the use of that fee and the development on which it's imposed. That's why we do not charge park fees for commercial, because there's not a reasonable relationship on why a commercial business generates demand for a park. So that's why you see them pay for the ones that they do produce an impact for. So the fiscal impact is really in order to fund projected increases in the cost of construction for these types of facilities now and in the future. The ordinances that were already approved authorize these annual adjustments, and the ordinances specified that the city manager bring back a report to city council before staff implements those increases. So this report is serving as that report back to council. The fee schedule has not been changed yet. So if you were to receive and file this tonight without any questions, we'll go ahead and implement the new fees on the fee schedule and start charging those September 1 of 2018.
Actually, one quick change to that.
Okay.
Is we really talked about waiting to implement these until January 1 of each year, because that gives us a chance to update, report back to council, and then notify the building industry that we have these changes coming. Because they run pro formas, they run costing on their projects, so we wouldn't want to change this in midstream on them. So, so then they begin to understand that our cycle is January 1 of each year, we're looking at implementing those rates. So, sorry, Kyle, I didn't get a chance to tell you that.
No problem. So we can implement them whenever you feel like it. Realistically, so that's not a big deal. We can produce these updates in January. If you prefer, we can run the indices again and do those adjustments closer to January, so that way the next year cycle will be more of a year. Or I can simply take these, implement them in January, and then the following year we can update it.
We're talking about giving the builders a lead time.
Yeah,
So we run the calculation, give them some lead time so they can begin to implement those into their new product lines.
Sure.
Experience with the building industry is that they price about every 3 months for housing stock. So whether it's lumber, concrete, roofing materials, there's about a 3-month lead time as they do any adjustments. And so we want to make sure we give them adequate time to do that as well.
All right. Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not.
All right, thank you. I will open it up to discussion or questions from council based on the staff report. Do I have any
I
questions?
just have a comment.
All right, go
My
ahead.
only comment was exactly that with the VIA, because it gives them time for input, because I know they like to come and give us a talk. So that's good that you incorporated that, so thank you for that.
Are you smiling because you have a question or a comment, or
I'm
because
good.
you want to move ahead?
Good. I'm good.
I just want to make sure I interpret it right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mike.
I'm good to make a motion if you don't.
All right,
No,
make a
no,
motion,
I have
please.
a question.
Okay.
I know, I just help you, man.
Councilmember Santos.
Yeah, I have a, on the CPI concern I have.
Sorry.
Because your basis is based on the, BLS on here, and also Department of Labor. You get a CPI on based on LA, Anaheim, and Long Beach on that particular. Is there any other, that we could use? The reason is it's, we're using a 4% on the CPI. Nationwide is we're 2.5 to be exact. 2.9. Correct me on that. 2.9. Might go up probably next month to 3%, and we might have a some rejection or concern on some of the people out there. We're using a 4%. Or we could use other region that really similar to us. That's the thing that I'm more concerned.
The past procedures and policy of the city of Beaumont have been to study the construction cost indices and CPI as it relates to the LA Basin region. So that's kind of where our benchmarking is occurring. I don't believe CPI has an index for the Inland Empire or for Riverside County. We're kind of treated as just an outlier group, even though we have the, 20th largest population in the entire United States. We don't have a CPI. So the closest one that relates to Southern California is that Los Angeles one. I don't know how Long Beach and Anaheim, I don't know who they paid to put their name on the thing.
I know.
But it used to be the LA one. Now it has Anaheim and Long Beach included.
Okay, let me follow up on that. I mean, because on our budget, on our side, we use 3% on the CPI. If I'm not, you could correct me on that. When I reviewed that, our budget for 18 and 19, we use the CPI on the 3%, which is, I don't have any concern on that. But on this costing and everything, I don't want somebody coming in and we're not consistent. That's about it. I mean,
There is a San Bernardino subset, but the problem is they're not reporting monthly and to the same level of detail that you're getting in the LA. And so that's the problem. There is a subset, but it's more generalized and it's coming out, I think, quarterly. So, and when I looked at the numbers those last time on a different issue, those numbers were not significantly different from the LA. And of course, part of San Bernardino County is there, kind of wrapped into that generalized area.
okay, that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the report and direct city manager to update development fee schedule to reflect the adjusted fees pursuant to ordinance 1092 and 1095 and resolution 2017-23.
I'll second.
And point of clarification, so y'all are okay with us
January 1st.
providing the notice and then putting these into play? on-
January.
Okay.
Okay with making it January 1st,
That's a
providing
good-
the notice.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and the second was,
He does
You can give it to Mr. Santos.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. With that, we'll take a 10-minute break. Sorry, Rebecca. Got a request. 10-minute break, and we will reconvene at 7:45. I was going to try to go all the way to the end. Somebody's turned the air conditioning down.
Sharon? Is yours?
Yeah. I think this is just Someone brought that up.
Starbucks. I could probably start it while you
We've been driving in there almost
I know.
every day.
Jack and I were right the first time. I said, what is this?
I was going through my medical notes as I was.
Sorry.
You didn't even think about it.
I meant to get that to you earlier, but I can't get
It really does.
Try to get it to
I never.
Right. Whenever I was here. Where someone was in there, you really. It's a revolving door. You know, because I was kind of in that pathway.
Yes.
I certainly don't have.
She's well loved. No, it's very nice.
That was.
We gave them a little certificate.
I did finally have.
Are you gonna have
to go back?
Just text me, I'll tell you where I'm at.
Yeah, but I'm never there. You just need.
I have some of them.
I have to make.
First went. I thought to myself.
Ran out of it.
Oh, really?
I like them.
I'm doing this with my mouth.
They're so good.
Before it comes back up.
When they're cold.
I know, I feel like I don't see y'all at all. I turn my mouth to go to sleep. My printer goes to sleep. It's so annoying. Like the sound where I have to push the power button. Our groups. You can't go on. You don't have to power
It was on there. You see where it's got it was so cold, and I had sleeping. I'm like, oh my God, it's right over our head.
Well, I think now that we're past today, things get a little bit, like I'm not reading.
No, it was too cold.
Yeah, I was getting cold
And
too.
there's nothing I can do about that. It sticks out there.
Christina, do you miss me? Because you don't see me.
Mine too.
Yeah, I was like, she went back to Texas. Oh, no, wait, she didn't.
It
'cause
feels
the
like
weather's so
Texas
good
right back
here,
there.
but yeah. Well, I did say, it smells so much better.
In the hallway when you come in, all of a sudden you're fresh.
Christina's back here. We have
Kyle probably thinks it smells girly back there.
After all that trouble I went to, banana extract.
Better than.
I've had people, for instance, if I'm not too fond of.
Oh, God.
Yours is like a, it's not like a pungent odor. It's just like a nice misting.
It's called clean air, but if you're sitting under it, you'll eat it.
Yeah, but in my office, I can kind of smell it, but it's not like a candle burning.
I think you make it
that I
extra
don't
places
want to
because we were
smell.
standing out there and we're like,
Like
it was like follow your smell to find me. Like it was, I don't know if it's maybe just when you first moved, all of a sudden it was, you could tell, like right then and there. Yeah. You just, yeah, we were standing at the entryway. I think everyone was like doing something or leaving and just standing there and chatting and we're like,
There's.
it's so different now that everyone else is there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I was telling Rebecca, it's so much quieter back there.
Can't hit the counter.
Because I can't hit the counter.
Yes.
I know, I
corrected it
doesn't
after
stop.
you probably printed it. People stopped. I was going through it and I locked those, but it has to go to.
No.
Reset.
Me out.
It just wastes, it just costs more my time because I have to go all the way over there and then go back.
You should find out where I'm at.
Instead of just, oh, I'm printing, I'm doing notices, I'm doing something. Oh,
That's weird.
yeah. I have to go check. Sorry.
Right, just a message.
I've done it. I did it once. Twice today.
It's like, oh,
I was
wait.
going to the cup and I was looking at my phone and I was just looking at my phone. I'm like, oh wait.
Oh yeah, not there.
Really that way.
Yeah, all you gotta do is touch it, but.
It's orange extract.
You shouldn't touch it.
She doesn't call for any juice.
Everything is like quickly.
We can back up. We have orange juices. Yeah. They kill all the vitamins C and all the vitamins in it. We do that. Well, we used to, since we used to go to Dowling. Yeah. Now we can't get to Dowling.
That's interesting.
Even though I spoke up during city council. You can't.
I know. You know, after so many years of doing it, you just. No, you don't know.
Now we're gonna sprint to the end.
You know what?
Can I take the whole container?
Yeah.
You don't need
Yeah. I got
I said she wanted us to be.
We are back at 7:45, and we're gonna move on to item 15, review and provide direction to staff regarding proposed zoning code updates. The staff report by Rebecca.
Thank you, Council. In 2017, the city began the general plan update process. This update includes creation of a downtown-specific plan, development of ordinances to update the zoning code to be consistent with the general plan, and an environmental impact report to include analysis and disclosure of any potential impacts of the general plan and zoning code updates to the environment. The downtown-specific plan will include an updated list of allowable uses, revised streetscape and parking standards, and design guidelines. The Planning Department held its first public meeting about the specific plan on August 14th in conjunction with the Beaumont Economic Development Committee and the Beaumont General Plan Task Force. At this meeting, a presentation was given and public comments were heard Staff and the city consultants will continue to receive feedback and update council with the findings. The general plan update and downtown specific plan are anticipated to be before council for consideration in early 2019. In addition to the downtown specific plan, staff has identified some zoning related topics to consider as part of the zoning code update. These topics may include parking standards, design guidelines, substantial conformance definition and policies, temporary use permit guidelines, wireless telecommunications sites, standards, landscape guidelines for parks and medians. And although this list has been identified by staff, it is not an all-inclusive list. Staff is looking for direction from council for any additional items or any specific items you'd like considered as part of that list to be addressed through a code update. Staff would research and complete each ordinance based on need and priority direction from council. Some would come back as part of the overall zoning code, and some, if priority is needed, could come back as a separate ordinance to council sooner than early 2019. We're asking for you to provide us direction on any proposed zoning code updates you'd like to see.
Thank you. Do we have public comments? We do. All right, thank you. I will open it up to council questions. Councilmember Laura?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Rebecca. This is great, and I think it's a really great opportunity for council or to take advantage of as well. I'm wondering, because if you sit and think about what we can or can't do, there are a lot of opportunities, I think, and I was wondering if with council consent, if it might be better to do a small workshop where we kind of brainstorm ideas, because I think one of the things that I think we need is a signage ordinance for downtown businesses, so that the signage is consistent with, as we move forward. And with everything that we have going on, I think it would benefit us if we just kind of took a step back and really looked at things, and maybe you could give us some additional ideas on things to look at or what we should be considering. I think the other thing is, and I might not get any support for this, but color palette that we had talked about, maybe some landscaping criteria for downtown. What was that, sir?
We have a wheel.
Well, I'm like a cold winter kind of guy, not a summer fall. So, but things like that, landscaping, I think, and I think that for me the ultimate goal was for these downtown businesses is to try to save them money and effort in trying to go through and submit their own signage plot plans, their own landscaping plot plans, and we just kind of developed that for them. But those are just my ideas. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember White, do you have a comment?
Yeah, we don't get to have enough workshops anymore. So I think we need another workshop.
Would you guys like to have each, like multiple workshops that focus on a specific area, like landscaping? Or do you really want just a zoning update workshop?
As long as we can have multiple color palettes.
There you go.
Would you like, and that's the question, would you like a design guideline workshop that would deal with color palettes, and then a landscaping workshop that would deal with landscaping questions, or just an all-inclusive, move this whole item to a workshop?
So my daughter tells me that I need to work on whether I'm being sarcastic or not being sarcastic.
I know you're being sarcastic.
Must be your teenage.
So I'll keep working on that.
Mayor Protem?
Well, Mr. Laura stole my thunder because he had two of my three. So the signage was a big concern of mine because we had talked about the electronic sign things and we never came back to that. It's in there somewhere. So that was, if we're trying to have this vision, we want to stay within this vision. So I don't know if it will or will not fit. That's something we'll have to talk about. And then the aesthetics, I also have that down because if we're looking at some sort of a design, we're not coming and shaking that dynamic based on that. So those were my two concerns as well. Are we looking for just kind of the downtown area, or are we looking at the city as a whole and how it fits into the downtown? It's kind of a confusion of mine.
We've got two different avenues. We've got just our zoning code update, which would deal with everything but the downtown. And then we've got our downtown specific plan that would handle the details within the downtown area. Our previous draft downtown specific plan had new downtown pedestrian friendly sign guidelines. So as part of a workshop, we could bring back those and see what you guys liked, what you didn't like out of that one, because a lot of that from that committee originally was going to be, in a sense, reused in this downtown specific plan. So it's both. We kind of need to separate what do we want in the downtown specific plan, what do we want in everything everywhere else.
And then to go with that, since it's of all of city possibly, is our noise ordinance.
Okay.
What do we have as an ordinance and how, because I've heard many things from, complaints from different residents about parties and stuff like that. And I've heard where, our PD has a limit on what they can enforce because of our ordinance and blah, blah, blah. So if we can kind of get an update of what we have now and where we might go from that, I think that would be important.
So we need to schedule a budget workshop and a budget kind of kickoff in here in September is what we're going to do. Would you want to do budget for part of the meeting and zoning for part of the meeting?
And I'm being serious here. I think the sign workshop should be separate.
Okay.
But I think the zoning ordinance workshop, in my opinion, could be done in one workshop and the same night as the budget as well. But I think the signs sort of have to be addressed.
As a whole workshop?
Yeah. I don't know. As a separate issue, definitely.
Do y'all want to kind of do a moving meeting and kind of drive the community together and see things?
What does that mean?
Like a tour?
Get in the van and tour
Mhm.
the city. Look at
Now, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
That would probably give some idea.
How would the public get down?
John doesn't like that. We're gonna have to take two buses, two and two and one.
That might be hard for Brown
Yeah,
Act.
I think you can arrange for the council to go on tours of the affected areas. We just couldn't do it as part of us.
You can't do it as five together, but we can do you.
So maybe pre-meeting, we could break out into small tours where we look at it and bring that information to the meeting, because otherwise we'd have trouble with the Brown Act,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Okay. But it's a good idea.
Another concept that would really help us as we start to write new ordinances and guidelines for you from a zoning perspective is think about places you've been, what you like, what you didn't like. Those really help us to be able to narrow down on things. So if you've got signage that you like in the downtown, if you can point us to a city or two that you thought did a really good job, that's a great starting place for us to pull their ordinance and figure out, okay, is this really what you want? And then we can look at those ordinances and tell you if there are any unintended consequences that may come about in Beaumont.
Okay.
Okay.
First comes to mind is Palm Desert and La Quinta. I think both of them have done pretty good jobs.
Can I have, Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. On the place, Claremont is on my number one.
Okay.
Because they did all the redevelopment on their downtown.
Okay.
If you could look on the on their train stations they have, not station, it's the rails in there up to Bonita Avenue. If you could study that, the whole section in there, that really similar to us.
Okay.
I mean, they have the buildings in there, they have the banks and everything on that side. The only thing we don't have is the university, okay? But if we design the way it was, designed on Claremont, that would be great. Can I add more? I mean, this is exciting to see on January or early next year, and we're looking forward on that. I have my priority to see on the especially on the specific downtown. I mean, plan is your wireless telecommunication sites, and because I like to attract every generation, especially the generation of the millennium, and our neighborhood right now is just a lot of in between of 30 to 45 age of people coming in, couples in here. That's my insight on, because I'm dealing with the public. Okay, that would be nice to have a wireless, and then their telephone. We have a signal within our specific area, especially in Beaumont Avenue and the 6th Street. My next in there is the parking standards. I mean, we have to redesign our parking in there, how we could, accommodate and let the businesses, accept them, or they could stop. I mean, if you look on the 6th Street to 8, there's no parking on the side. I mean, you have to go in and go around and everything. If we could utilize that, that would be great on that side. Landscaping on that side, I mean, that's my third one on guidelines of on the landscaping. I don't know if ideal to put a median or on that Beaumont Avenue. That would be nice to have a bike lanes in there, and then so that would be really more on pedestrian friendly on that side. That's the way. Lastly, is your design. I mean, we like to see your design. I mean, your design probably really good on guidelines. Probably the one that we're talking about is the workshop. Probably you could do a design based on this, and then we could see it, and then we could discuss it. That's the way I see it. Your proposals in here on the specifically on downtown.
I think you're very prime for commercial activity coming in. Those are the other items I would suggest if you can bring us back some ideas of, again, what do you like, what do you don't like? If you want to write standards or not around retail commercial that's coming in. Same thing with housing. As we get through this kind of housing stock that we have on the ground that's already entitled, we still have other subdivisions to come in. How would you like those to look, or would you like them to look any different? You get kind of one shot at this from here forward on anything that's not developed, and so just want to make sure that your vision for the community is what your code actually is requiring.
I will agree with, excuse me, Councilmember Santos. There's probably no better example in my mind than Claremont. Claremont, it couldn't get more perfect in my mind in terms of an example. And one of the reasons that I saw, not only is it a great city as an example, but one of our problems, I think, is that we're talking about a downtown area that's a thoroughfare. And when you look at communities like La Quinta, let's say, that came to mind because that Old Town area is a whole developed area that it's kind of like its own cul-de-sac back there. And we're not going to be able to operate with that kind of a basic structure because there's some through traffic that goes through there. In Claremont's a better example of being able to make that kind of through structure more rich. And it's got the train station, it's pretty much got everything. So I think that would be at the top of my list for an example. But one of my concerns, and I'm not sure how well I'm going to express this, but one of my concerns about going ahead with this is, of course I love it. I'd like to make, the town as good as we can. I'd like to take the vision and really work on it. But kind of what I worry about is that we end up with these wonderful idealistic plans for where we should be, and somehow or other people in our community have to live with us getting there, and it might be 10 years out that we're going to actually end up with this vision hammered down and with being able to actually, I just picked 10 as a number to move towards. But somebody's business might die in the meantime because we didn't address parking, or because we didn't put up some shade trees, or we didn't slow the traffic down, or whatever. So my concern when we do something like this is that we set the bar high because we want to do the right thing, but I'd like to have an intermediary plan to get there where we can live along the way and help people along the way and encourage people to come here, because it's not going to happen overnight anyways. So when we approach these things, I'd like to start with the end in mind, but then figure out, is there a halfway point or a third, and a third, where we could say, for instance, I know there's grants available for trees in a downtown area. I know that. So maybe in the landscaping guidelines in 6 years from now, we plan to have all great trees, but maybe we can apply for a grant and get those trees in place ahead of time, and people can start to see a vision turn a little bit, and then the businesses will come because they actually see something happening. Because the businesses aren't going to go to our meetings. If I'm thinking of opening a brewery, I'm not going to go sit in the city council meeting in Beaumont and say, oh, great, they're talking about this. Let me go invest $50,000 in the city. But if I hear that there's already some visual signs, then I know and I believe you're starting to go in a direction. So with me, when I look at something like this, yeah, I want to get there. I really do. And I want it to be wonderful. But I want to make sure that people can live with it along the way, and that we have some substantive anchors where people believe that we're actually doing something. Because we also have the mantle where we've done updates to the general plan where we talked about doing the downtown area before, and then because of a whole set of reasons, things did not happen. So we have that credibility gap that we still have to get over too with the downtown.
A lot of those, a lot of those improvements would end up being not, developer or downtown related, because the downtown, a lot of it is reuse of existing buildings. You're not going to get those street improvements that would be like in a brand new development, Second Street or inside a community. So it's definitely something once we've nailed down this design, we would have to come back to you, with the capital improvement program and decide, okay, what do we want to do first? Here's the street section we're shooting for. That's not something that's going to be done by the business owners. It is something that we're going to have to invest in and do. A lot of the streetscape is in the right-of-way, definitely something that we'll look at grants, we'll look at different additional funds, but we'll be coming back, to you guys to apply for those grants and ask for those funds once we have that vision done, so we can make those steps and do piece by piece, decide, what's most important, from this block, and then we do that block, and then we do that block. Do we do this whole stretch, based on funds? But we'll definitely want to follow up and try and get this downtown where the vision is.
One quick question. Where would an issue where we want to make sure that we've considered a homeless issue in the downtown area, would that fall in here at all? Because I know we get repeated complaints about it.
Yes and no. As you create a downtown where you have more people, you have both positive and negative. You don't have people hiding in behind buildings because it's such an open, walkable space. But you do also see in a lot of good downtowns where you might find someone sitting on a bench all day. But there's also the opposite, that you get trained, from a police department perspective about designing spaces so that you're not creating hiding spaces. Yeah. And so there's definitely things that we look at as each plan, a new project comes in, and we review it with the police department so that we're making sure we're not creating bad spaces. Okay. That we're trying to make sure that we're reducing those areas. But and by making, again, these new walkable communities, much wider sidewalks, more street furniture, more benches, more everything. Everything's much more out in the open. And as it gets more active, you have more people using it.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right, with that, do I have if I have no other comments, do I have a motion to receive and file? Isn't that what we're, staff direction. Provide direction to staff. Do you have enough direction, Rebecca?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on. Item 16, creation of ad hoc committee for water reuse for the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District. Create an ad hoc committee regarding water reuse for the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District to coordinate recycled water responsibilities, development, delivery, and costs associated with the production and delivery of recycled water. We do have a council member who is our liaison to the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District. So unless he objects, I would like to appoint him and myself to the Water Reuse Ad Hoc Committee.
Sure, I'm good with that.
Okay. So,
I support that.
all right.
Yep.
Everybody okay with that?
Do you want to do an official motion for it?
I need, all right, so I make a motion to appoint Lloyd White and Nancy Carroll to be the two city council members to the Water Reuse Ad Hoc Committee.
Do we need to make?
I'll second.
As long as I didn't,
I just have a question or a concern about this. Are we going to be doing this in public like we
Sure.
tried to do with
It's a Brown Act body.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Does the water district know that? Because I was there when they approved theirs and they didn't bring that up. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware.
Well, they've got a very capable lawyer, Jim Markman.
Okay.
So, if need be, he and I can talk, but it should be treated as a Brown Act body.
Okay, I just know that we got nowhere with our neighbors to the east because they wanted to do it all behind the scenes.
said he was interested.
This is an ad hoc committee that's being created. It is not comprised solely of a minority of our legislative body. It's comprised of council members from this body and another agency's body. It is a Brown Act body.
Okay. Then you already have a second. Were you asking me to vote? Have you gotten to me yet?
We have a first, a second. I was going to do roll call if you're ready. Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Item 17, legislative updates and discussion. Bureau of Cannabis Control proposed regulations for July 2018. I can't wait.
I can. So before you tonight is a simple opposition letter to the Bureau of Cannabis Control. That's I think the state-created agency that when the voters of California enacted the fact that marijuana could be legal, it set forth this Cannabis Control Bureau. And right now they're entertaining the notion of deliveries. The league has asked their different member cities to oppose the legalization of the delivery service. Or maybe I should rephrase that. So right now, your city can prohibit marijuana dispensaries or medicinal dispensaries. At the same time, you can allow for delivery in your city, even though you don't want the dispensary, or you can prohibit it. The law that's being looked at right now would supersede your local control and basically say statewide you can have deliveries. The cities can't take any action to prohibit a delivery occurring within their jurisdiction. And that's what the letter of opposition basically states, is that we, the city, are not in favor of eliminating our local control. We find that marijuana is still classified as a banned substance by federal law, and that based on that discrepancy, we're not going to allow it within our city, or we oppose you enacting a law that doesn't, or forces us to allow it in our city. So that's what's on this. I have a couple key items for just the legislative update. One is that the state is amended a bill that would create a safe water drinking fund for disadvantaged communities. I don't believe we'll qualify as one of those, so that's not necessarily relevant, but it is nice that they're looking at trying to produce extra funding for those communities. They are definitely looking at wildfires, utility responsibilities, consumer impacts, and inverse condemnation. So there's going to be 4 informal hearings on that topic. And the governor has a proposal which hasn't been widely shared, but it probably will come to light in the next week or two, because they hit recess on August 31st. So they're going to be signing a lot, or they're not going to be signing, but they're going to be passing a lot of bills that then goes to the governor's desk. And the last day he can sign something into law is the last day of September. And then there's a homelessness block grant program that we'll be looking at to see if we qualify, whether it's going to be competitive or if it's a formula grant. But tonight before you, that's the end of that update. Realistically, we were just looking to see if City Council wants to approve the mayor to sign this opposition letter, and if so, we will send it to our lobbyist as well as the League of Cities. Thank you.
We have one other quick update that Chief Talese brought to our attention today. The Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act of 2018 is not going to make it to the 2019 ballot, so they didn't have all the registrars reporting, so it will be on the 2020 ballot. And that's the one that addresses the statutes that provided for the early release of a lot of convicted felons out into the community. So we have about 1,300 that came back here to Beaumont alone, and so we've definitely seen an uptick of activity as a result of some of that. So anyway, so it's not going to be on this coming ballot. It's going to have to be deferred from 2019 to 2020.
A question from, or discussion from council?
Just a quick comment. This letter has to be done, I believe it goes to committee the end of this month, maybe next week or the week after that.
Yes.
And you know how I'm tired of the state coming in and telling us what we can and cannot do. So I think we should maintain the control over whether or not pot's delivered in our city or not.
I agree.
Any disagreement? Okay. You have your direction.
Got it. Thank you.
Can't even get donuts delivered here. I didn't get, come on.
City council reports. I went to San Francisco with the A-team. And the A-team in terms of the quality of their work, not in terms of the content of their germs. They were definitely germ-ridden.
So dirty.
However, they did, I can't tell you how proud I was of them. They did an absolutely superb job. And, I mean, under great duress, first the flights canceled, and then they all pitched in, and everybody found Mary and Christine, and they found new flights. And then instead of San Francisco, we had to go to Sacramento. And then we had to rent a car or a truck. And so then we had to drive to San Francisco. So I mean, it was a stressful trip, to put it nicely. And then the meeting with the people in San Francisco was kind of like financial bond dating. You know, we went from one team to another team to another team, and everybody had to be spot on for every one of them. And they were so well prepared. Sitting across the table from Standard & Poor's, and the lead analyst on that particular, on us, on Beaumont, was certainly you had to be on top of your game. And the team was absolutely spectacular. And the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. So we got an A+ rating. So I just can't tell you how proud I was of our city manager, Todd Parton, our assistant city manager, Christine, Amr, Milana, our consultants that we worked with. I mean, Urban Futures, we had Wing C there. She did a terrific job. We had Katie from Piper Jaffray. We had Brian Forbath. You just had to put your best game on and do a good job and make sure that you really did have all your documentation in line, because this is not something that they do lightly. And I can't tell you how, and we should all be so proud of the work that they did. They did a great job. And then I went to Starlight Elementary today, which you'll hear from some of the other council members also, because we had a great showing. And it's a beautiful school, and it's a great addition to the community. And with that, I will stop talking and pass it on. So, Councilmember Santos, would you like to tell us how Hawaii was?
Oh, Hawaii is terrific, man. I just came back on Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning, so that was good. So anyway, not really a report. I mean, I'd just like to share with you discussing with the, especially on the historic barrio. district, and they approached me. We discussed what they have on that community, and because California is getting so busy on that area. I don't know if you're familiar with the area. It's in California and Olive or First Street and Third Street on the south of the Freeway 10. And they're just addressing their concern because most of the people there wants to go to downtown, wants to go to First Street, go to Walmart and Home Depot, and they're having problems on heavy traffic now on the California street. Now they want to have to utilize the Grace Street in there, and that's between First Street and the Third Street. I did went in there before going to Hawaii, and it's really impossible. I mean, it has a big, deep, really, I will encourage you, probably, check that out. So our citizen on that area should be, will be treated on a right manner of using our street. Because that street is, I look on the public records, it's dedicated as a street. So right now it's all dirt. I mean, and now looking on the disadvantaged community, the way I see it, this is part of the disadvantaged community. I don't know if we could use the grant or fund to make this street for them. I mean, I'm not saying pave it right away. I think the most remedy we could probably share on that community is, grade that street so they could have a alternate to go to the Walmart, Home Depot, to go to the First Street because majority lives on that community. There's a park over there, and they use the Grace Street to connect to First Street. They turn left going west, then cross the Beaumont Avenue. And they expressed that 2 weeks ago, and I said, okay, I'll share it to the council about their concern on that. They want to use that road, and they said they've been suffering for many years. Nobody really stepped up and mentioned that concern they have. That's all I have. Thank you for listening to me.
Councilman Santos, that would be Grace Street connection from Third down to First Street?
That's correct.
Okay.
And a majority of the owners in there is Baldi Brothers owns he has a big wall in there, and they put a wall in there. And then there's 2 vacant lots in there owned by individual in the area. But the rest is, residents in that area. They try to utilize that road. And I thought that was really a makeup road. It's not. I mean, it's dedicated road. I look on the public record on that. Yeah, it's in the connection on the Third and First. Grace Street. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Starlight Elementary, really love the architecture of that school, colors, very nice. Unfortunately, we're not unable to walk it yet, so hopefully we can do that. Beaumont Chevrolet Park and Recreation District, I had the opportunity to take Ms. Gibbs-Urtiaga and introduce them to the board. They are getting ready to embark on some new areas, one of them being Bogart Park, which is exciting for this community. And they are implementing their plan, their long-term plan, and taking steps to do that. One of those being the Quimby fees and making sure that they get those monies. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening with them. Would also like to thank the POA for their willingness to work with us and coming to an agreement with the contract. I think that's great. It's a big move. There always seem to be the ones that step up. I know they stepped up last time when we were in trouble. And finally, we I had a little bit of time after closed session to take a little tour, and just wanted to comment on the staff here at the city. And not only their resiliency, but their adaptation to change. I think that has a lot to do with management. But it's great to see. Attitudes are great here. And it's great to be a part of that, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So the RCA will be meeting September 10th after its summer recess, so we'll be continuing up with that and hearing more about the species of the month too coming up. I attended the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday where the general plan update was given and presented to the commission and members of the EDC and the FAC, and it was very interesting to see where we're at now and very pleased with the progress that they've made on that plan. I also attended the Starlight Ribbon ceremony. They recently received an award from Chamber of Commerce for the design, and I've heard nothing but positive from parents about the design and the comfort of the school. So the community is very proud to have it, and we're very proud to have it within our city. So that's all.
Councilmember White?
Last Thursday, I watched the town hall type meeting that you had here, and I think it went really well. There was a lot of concerns, and I think watching it online, you can hear a lot of stuff that you guys couldn't hear because it's people talking while you're talking, and I think if you listen to the temper of people at the beginning versus where they were when they're walking out, I think that you guys made a big impression on them. And I thought, did you really say to Libby that she was not an accountant?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you really say to Libby, you're not an accountant?
Replay.
I really said that?
Yeah, and then I think she said, if I'm not, then what am I? And I think you said something along the lines of, well, that's a good question.
I think I said no one knows what your credentials are.
Well, it was very well handled, I think.
No, she said, I'm the independent auditor who
busted the city.
And I said, you are not.
It was very well represented by both the staff as well as Webb and Associates and the gentleman from K. Hubney also. So I think if you have to do more of those, I think they're great to do. So I would encourage doing more of those. The school was great. It's in my report.
Thanks. With that, we will move on to economic development update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The committee did not have a meeting at the last meeting because there was lack of quorum, I think, based on summer schedule. And then I know a lot of people were getting back into school in certain professions, so there was we were short one person to actually have a quorum. We did talk about a couple different things offline, and I think the committee will probably be gearing up for the September meeting, and then we'll kind of discuss the progress on the survey and then what other types of things that they're going to be interested in doing. Another key thing that the committee will probably be starting to work on is the city did receive results or proposals on the RFP we went out to for the Economic Development Strategic Plan. So staff's currently grading that, and we're going to be bringing that to a meeting in September for award. So we'll gear the committee up with exactly what the RFP was and kind of what we're seeing. And hopefully at the next meeting in October, we'll tell them who City Council's hired and what the next steps are. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Treasurer report?
Nothing to report.
City Clerk report?
Just a little bit. So, public records requests for July, there were 76. 9 hours spent by the deputy city clerk, 7 1/4. hours spent by other departments and 3.5 hours spent by legal. And one of the requests that was mentioned in the beginning of our meeting, that the statement was made that there were no documents on file. The answer was given, the documents were available on Laserfish, and that's in regards to Mr. McDougal's contract and his invoice and payment.
All right. Thank you. City Attorney report?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. City Manager report?
Moment. Everybody has been so patiently awaiting. First, the really bad news. It looks like we are going to cancel the September 4th meeting. Oh, sorry about that. Kind of tough with the holiday weekend, and you know, I think, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. One of the things that's happening out there, Riverside County is preparing its 2019-2024 consolidated plan. Part of that is a community survey where they're looking at various issues with regard to service providers and things like that within the community. This is something that's required through the U.S. Department of HUD. So all that to say is that part of the city's role in being a agency within Riverside County and being a member of the CDBG program is that we need to help facilitate this survey. So we actually have a access on our city's website, which you can click on as a link that gets you over to the online survey. It's at www.beaumont.ca.gov/CDBG. So if you type that in or go to our website to that point, you can get there. We do have a paper version. I guess there's somebody here to take a paper version. Council, if you'd like to take a paper version, there's one in the back of the room there. One of the things that I think is important to note, and there's been a lot of social media discussion to a certain point with regard to the city's prepayment program for our bonds. When I first got here, that program was frozen. It was frozen because we need to do some reconciliation. And the funds that we showed had been collected had never been relayed back to the trustee. So anyway, so we froze it till we could get a program and get everything put into place. So one of the things that we worked hard on and we got moving again last year was the prepayment program. So we reconciled our CFDs, we got that program going, we got that set up. Part of that program is an average calculation that we post online. So if you live in an improvement area and you know which one you're in, then you can search it and you can pull up a sheet that shows you what the average prepayment amount would be. That's not what your exact amount would be, but it's an average for your area. And then if it's within a range that you're comfortable with, then you could approach the city about applying for your prepayment calculation. And then there's a process we have in place for that. So we had 11 total individuals who took advantage of that program this last year in 2018. So we had prepayment amount of $169,730.10. And now the various bonds are redeemable in increments of 5,000. So we don't necessarily get a chance to pay and redeem immediately. If you pay $7,500, only $5,000 will be applied, and based on the time it comes in is when it actually gets applied. So out of that $170,000 in March, $30,000 was applied to redeem bonds in specific improvement areas. We have the next bond payment that's coming in to actually serve the full defeasance schedule, as well as $85,000 of bonds that are being redeemed through collections. So, so bottom line is $115,000 has been documented. We are tracking it. We are booking it. As those prepayments come in, those funds are collected. They're then sent to the trustee, and then we then notify the trustee that we are ready to have those bonds redeemed, and then they move those funds over and incorporate that into the debt service payments that are made. So the supposition that we are not tracking, that we don't know, that we don't have a program in place is fake news.
All right.
Okay? So, and if, I'm sure there may be an open records request, we have a report here that is handy dandy that explains everything.
You want me to drop that off?
So, anyway, and so, good luck to the Raiders, to the Chargers. You know, Broncos are coming. Be right behind you all the way. That concludes.
Aren't you lucky?
Future agenda items. Councilmember Santos, I think that the city manager took note of some of your comments, so that may end up on. Does council have any other future agenda items they'd like to get on the agenda?
I just have a quick thing. I did have a few residents approach me about the yard sale ordinance. The yard sale ordinance, if I remember back from my clerk days, allows, I think, 2 a year or something like that. But there was discrepancy when I remember reading it about whether it was calendar or if it was calendar, you know, do we have any options? So they were asking about that. So if we could sometime in the future just bring that up so I can look at it and see. So we had a couple of suggestions about how we might want to make that more, I guess, where the citizens can use it more. That's all.
With that, I will adjourn. Whoops.
I'm sorry, just
Go ahead.
one quick comment. And I didn't touch on it when the clerk made her report, and I apologize, but it's my understanding that if documents are available online electronically, which is important with the Laserfish, that we don't have to provide them that document. We just point them in the direction where they can get the document on their own, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good clarification. With that, I will adjourn the city council meeting at 8:33 p.m.